Hey, Jagged here. Before we get into the video, if you've liked my content, smash that sub button. And I also stream live on Twitch most nights, so check me out at twitch.tv/jacket. My links will be in the description. Let's get into the video. So, I have some things I need to get off my chest, and it's going to be in no coherent order. I'm just going to start talking about them. So, I have played a collective of like 20 days. And the majority of that is all summoners. Basically all summoner. All minion focused necromancer, looking through builds, looking through paragon points, looking through pretty much everything under the sun to try to get these bad boys to work. Oh, minions. And so, something I noticed almost immediately is just the sheer raw power they have for at-level content. Like, right from the get-go, I was told that the minions were not good, they fall off really hard, and it's very difficult to make them work, it's very difficult to keep them alive, all of these things. I didn't do any research into the game, so like the first thing I was told, I had low expectations. And what this means is I didn't think that they would even get to World Tier 4. Oh, Jet, really? They're considered World Tier, they're considered S tier now? Is there like a tier list now that has them up there? That's funny. On Icy Veins? Yeah, of course. So apparently Icy Veins has moved them up to an S tier from the beginning. But from the beginning, I had very, very low expectations. Got a link here. Let's go take a look at it real quick. Move my guy back over here. Mendeln Summoner Necro. Yeah, look, there it is. That's funny. And minions were thought to be some of the lowest damage things. So that's where they were at, right? It it was a very low expectation. This is an updated list now, so that's very interesting to see how far it's progressed. But I've done a lot of work into this. A lot of other people, like Riparian, like Drybear, we got some really good brains on the case here to try to figure them out. I believe Crip was saying that he was working with other people on minions. It might have been Gazi. Don't quote me on that. But it's pretty awesome to see the people trying to put some real work into to get a beloved playstyle well. And I was very happy to be a part of that crew to try to work on it. Like, we didn't work on it together per se. I talked to Crip a few times in his chat, but nothing that he would remember. But going back to what my thoughts were here. So, on my thoughts here, starting off with low expectations, I had one goal. My one goal was to get to level 100 with minions. And we succeeded this goal far. I've completed an 85. I've done so much stuff in regards to what I thought was even possible. And it's quite amazing of what we were able to get done with the minions. Give me 1 second here. So we far and far and few between just destroyed the goal. I was very, very happy with how that turned out. Now, it's nowhere near Bone Spear. It's not even close. Some of my largest accomplishments with the minions were getting the Blood Golem to hit for 1.3 mil, getting the mages to, sorry, not hit, crit. Getting the mages to crit for 1.3 mil, and I don't even have perfect aspects. I was missing probably 70% multiplicative damage, which is an insane amount, which would probably even more, so we're probably talking about 2.5, 3 million damage they could have crit for at the time of when they were doing the damage that they were doing. And I do have some very high hopes for this. When tomorrow hits, July 18th, 2023, for the patch for Season 1, hopefully the minions get some love. And that would be pretty dope. If not, that's okay. I think they're very powerful. I think the Ring of Mendeln is an intended mechanic with minions, regardless of if it scales off of their own damage or your own damage, which we all know now it scales off of the player's damage. So a lot of people who like to play summons don't really consider it as a minion-esque item. I personally do. I think it's all part of the build. You can still get the Ring of Mendeln to hit for crit for over 1 mil, even while focusing on minion damage. I have a couple build guides out there that show that as well, so that's very exciting. And you know, that's really where we got with that goal. So the next thing I wanted to talk about is something that a lot of people are going to be able to agree with. I have a lot of gripes with minions. It's not all positive here. This list is going to be a little bit extensive because there are a lot of complaints that I have about it. Playing for 20 days, you get quite accustomed with how things might work, and some people are absolutely spot on with how they feel about minions. I would not say that minions are even close to meta. I would say they're very annoying to use from time to time, and they can also be very fun to use. So we'll do like a little pros and cons list here. We'll do a couple of these. Of some pros. Space, indent. Cons. So the first pro I have is that for some world events, you can just stand still and the minions will do everything for you, and it's quite hilarious and fun to do. You don't need to like hit anything. So that's something I would say is a very big plus for them. You really you don't need to aim at all. You're just hanging out there, letting the minions do their thing. You might drop a curse. You might just let them kill everything, depending on like what difficulty you're at or where your items are at. This was like a huge positive for me. It's a very lazy build. You can actually just like stroll in and throw a curse down and let the minions do some work, and it's very fun. Another pro, I would say, is that they're very interesting. I found it fun to like go through and experiment. Like everything of that interacts with minions and how they work and how they go through and mechanically work with everything, because Blizzard, lo and behold, did not actually give us like a minion damage sheet page. So it was very interesting. Not sure what that was. Yeah, so the math was very fun for me to figure out. This is a personal pro. I don't think everyone should be invested in this. I've spent almost 200 million gold, literally down to basically no gold again, and all my good aspects have been wasted several times over, just trying to figure this stuff out. And I think now that we know how they work, and we can see some big numbers, like between 1 and 2 million damage coming from an individual mage. You know, 6 mages critting for 2 mil is 12 12 million damage, and it's 12 million damage that comes out rapidly. It comes out free, and so that's another really good pro. We're gonna get to the cons here. No, keep talking good about them, but I have a lot of good things to say about them. All of the minion damage is free. Does not require any resources from you for those minions to go and do their attacking. They have a really great synergy, and the synergy is Reapers create corpses, and then the Bone Mages use their health to do big damage. We use the corpses to heal the mages. And so this synergy provides a very good gameplay loop of easily allowing the mages to be hitting, not critting, hitting for 400k. 400k, it's not, again, it's not fantastic, it's not Bone Spear, it's not 10 million damage, but it is something that is very noticeable. And again, it's not one mage only, it's not like one Bone Spear we're throwing out, it's 6 of them with my build. So 6 of them hitting for 400k, that's 2.4 million damage. That's pretty decent. That's not bad at all. But we got a couple pros out. Let's talk about some cons. You gotta take the good with the bad, right? One of the biggest cons I have about minions is you have no agency over them. You have absolutely no agency. The only way you have to control the minions is running off screen. You run off screen, the mages will just kind of trot after you, the skeletons will respawn, the golem will respawn near you, and it's really the only way to get them to move to where you want them to be. So when you fight something like a suppressor, you literally have to run off screen to get your mages inside the bubble so that they can do damage, or if you're using the bone mages like I do, you just let them attack themselves to death, and then you just resummon them inside the bubble, and then they'll do damage. Also, Ring of Mendeln doesn't work while you're outside of the suppressor bubble, because you can't lucky hit, I guess, outside of the suppressor bubble, because it snapshots where your location is for each individual move, which is very odd. And this is something that I have a big gripe with. This is almost like it's 2 cons worth. So this isn't just 1, this is like 2, because not having control over your damage and your support mechanics, your things that are crucial to your playstyle, I would say is just not. It's not good. It's really, really not good. You could just simply throw a Bone Spear. You can throw a Blood Lance. You can put some shadow damage around, but you literally cannot control your minions in any way, shape, or form. The most you can do is send your golem to a location to do a thing. So this is something that is very, very bad, and while they can be a menace on them their own and just completely decimate everything, when you get to higher content, like 70 plus, you want to be able to control them. You want to have that control over those other things that you're doing damage with, because you can't have them get feared. You don't want them standing inside Fire Enchanted when it's going off. It's going to do a lot of damage, and so these things really just brings them down like 10 pegs in my book here. And that brings me to the next con, is they're very squishy. Your minions will die. And that's okay, because you can resummon them with the corpses made by the Reapers, but it's almost like Army of the Dead is an intended use with your minion builds, but Army of the Dead is not very good in and of itself. Rather than spawning other skeletons that do basically no damage, I would much rather have the minions get 100% damage increase or something while Army of the Dead is active. Because if you can have 100% damage increase, then that stacks on top of the aspect to get a 100% attack speed increase. That would be a delightful combo to really boost them up a tier. 100% might be too much, but still, you got to think about what else you're sacrificing if you have an aspect like that. So maybe it's baseline 50 and you put it on a two-handed and it goes to 100. I would love something like that. But oh no, sorry. we're talking about like if Army of the Dead was better, yeah, but even 50, I would take literally anything over what Army of the Dead currently does. I love that the legendary aspect makes it so that they take 90% reduced damage, and you could pretty much have that thing up 100% of the time with the Decrepify cooldown. But man, it does absolutely no good to have your minions attacking that fast if you're using the Bone Mages, and the Bone Mages seem to be like the only way to do damage. If you're not using the Bone Mages, it doesn't seem like there's a consistent source of damage going around. At least for the higher end content. Again, everything like your level or plus 10 or 15 is you're just gonna decimate it. It doesn't really matter. We're talking about like way later in the game, Nightmare Sigil 80, 75, 80 plus. But that's like a whole nother topic we'll talk about in another Diablo great video. Just get one shot there, and it's literally kill or be killed, and that's where they don't shine. And that takes me to my next con. My next con is... It's really weird to say, because I think every time we put a con on the list, it's almost like one of those things where it's like, you rather just not have to deal with it. So, you don't have agency, they're squishy, they can't dodge mechanics, and now we go into this next one, and I'm drawing a blank. Gonna have to be edited in the video, which I didn't want to do. Let me take my notes real quick. Here's the next con. I know what we're going to talk about here. Okay. So the next con is that there's no core... There's no core summoning ability. And I would love to have something to spend essence on that, like, does something for my minions. Can I get like a move where Ray Skeleton now costs 10 essence and like plus a corpse or something, and then that like while they're all summoned or something like that? So just so I'm super clear, I don't want it to cost 10 essence all the time, but like the corpse to summon them, sure, that's fine, it's a cost. Not a lot of people agree with it, but sure, it's a cost, whatever. But then once you have them all, can I have it cost like 10 essence or something, and then give it even more damage or more healing or more damage reductions or something? Let me like pick some talents here. Like this is there's nothing up here in the basic skills that has anything to do with minions other than Acolyte's Decompose, but it's also your own damage. And then there's nothing in the core skills that work with it except for Supernatural Blight. Like even Hued Flesh doesn't work at all with minion damage, and you don't want the other passive that's here. So please, let's get something in these first two columns that has anything to do with minions. I would love that for us. A huge problem I'm having right now with this. There's no core summoning ability. Absolutely a problem. On top of that, the minion abilities cost 2 slots on your bars. It's not like the minions are just free and you have to do with it, but they cost 2 ability slots, and that is a huge problem. You know, if they're costing 2 slots, that better be my core ability. That's what I'm talking about. Make Ray Skeleton a core ability. Give it some extra damage. Give it something. It's ridiculous that you have to take up Skeletons and Golem for this. They could have just put Golem inside Ray Skeleton or something. I don't even know what they could have done. Maybe not give Golem an activate. Just literally anything, because you're taking up an extra slot. And on the bright side about that, if you look through this skill tree, you're still not missing much with those 2 extra slots. Like, I would love to put Army of the Dead there instead of Golem, but like, you know, between the Golem and then Cult Leader, it's like you have to have all 3 types of minions to do damage with one type of minion, because you want literally every single type of X multiplier. Like 10x multiplier on anything, 10% X multiplier is an insane amount. It's like 200% increased damage for them. It's ridiculous. So that's another big con we have too, is can't sacrifice any. because you lose 15% X multiplier on the others. And so, like, that's a problem. Like, if I wanted to do damage with my warriors, I could sacrifice my mages and give them vulnerable damage percent. But, like, you can't do that. You lose out on too much damage. It's too much. It's too insane. And then on the other side, the flip side here, can't get rid of the golem to get increased crit damage, which again is another insane multiplier, because then you lose 15% base damage. It's just too much. It's just too much. So I think that's another big con. But we have gone with a few cons now, so let's talk about the pro. The pro is not going to be any redeeming quality, unfortunately. It's just a little niche thing, a little very nice thing. The summons in a boss fight, your minions get summoned for you. So don't have the golem, don't have any skeletons, don't have any mages. They will all get summoned for you for free. It's a really nice little quirk, because not having any corpses left, then going into a boss fight, having to find a way to generate corpses, it would be a nightmare. The other thing too we'll add as another gripe is I would love to see a minion sheet, like a minion character sheet. So there's no minion character sheet, it's kind of lame. This would make it so it would just be like night and day. You don't have to do math, right? Because as much as it's fun for me to say that I want to do math and learn and experiment with things, it's not friendly in the game to do that. You have to know life it, you have to get millions and millions of gold, you have to farm really good aspects. It's just not a good experience for a normal average person who's not really into that kind of thing to just go and play. So that is something to take into account. And these are some of my main pros and cons lists here. You might notice that we didn't even talk about the damage. I don't know if it's a pro or con. They don't do phenomenal damage, but they don't do terrible damage. So it is something that everything has to be taken with a grain of salt, but this is just too much. You don't have any agency. It feels really bad building into minions. You have to do so many things. It's hard to grab so many spells because they're taking up 2 slots on your bars. And then on top of that, you need to have all of them. You can't. You need to have all 3 types for maximizing damage, and maybe that's where I'm messing up. Maybe where I'm too attached to it, but we can experiment with that at a way later time. But for now, these are my thoughts on it. It's something that we're spent a ton of time into getting the minions to be able to do over 1 million damage. And we got to over 1 million damage, but it's almost like at a what cost? I will say, if you're going to play Necromancer, you want to do Bone Spear, unless it gets nerfed tomorrow. But I would say level up as minions. It's so much fun. People are going to call you OP when you know what you're doing, and you're putting your talents and your skills in the right places. You're putting your Paragon points in the right places. You're like, well, how did you do so much damage? What happened to that boss? And they're still working on their build, because their build doesn't come online until like level 50, but your build comes online at level 1. You just hit that raise skeleton button, you just trot on your merry little way up to level 50, level 70, level 100. And so those are my thoughts. Those are my closing thoughts here. If I come up with any more, I will add them into the pinned comment below. But otherwise, that's pretty much it for this. So, see you in the next video. Peace!